Good morning, students. Welcome to the course Retrofitting and Rehabilitation of Structures. We are in Unit 3 Condition Assessment, Non-Destructive Testing and Evaluation. We'll now proceed with Lecture 5 of Unit 3. The topic covered in this lecture will be NDT methods for chemical effects. So, there, we have to test the concrete for chemical effects. Primarily, the chemical constituent of concrete determines the corrosion of the concrete. In Unit 2, we studied the effects of corrosion and how corrosion is very deteriorating to concrete strength. So, how to measure whether the corrosion is taking place? Because corrosion occurs within the concrete and we have no access visually that corrosion has started unless the concrete starts spalling. So there are some chemical tests to be done for checking the corrosion potential of concrete. Similarly, there are methods to identify carbonation depth in concrete. Then we have alkali aggregate reactions. What are the methods to check alkali aggregate reactions? And then some salt contents in concrete. One example is a prominent one is chloride content. So we will study these tests for chemical properties: half cell potential test, electrical resistivity test, phenolphthalein solution test, petrographic analysis. We will not go into X-ray diffraction and infrared spectroscopy, but we'll go on spectroscopic analysis and also urinal acetate fluorescence method and chloride content measurement using chloride meter and particularly rapid chloride test kit. So testing for chemical properties, we will test electrochemical activity, corrosion activity measurements. So there are two tests. First test is called as the half cell potential method or a half cell potential test. This is also called as open circuit potential measurement technique. In this technique, to a voltmeter or a potential meter, there are two wires or leads, one connecting to the reinforcement and other connects to the surface of the concrete with a cell attached. This cell is called as the half cell and it is usually of a copper rod and a copper sulfate solution. Sometimes silver and silver chloride solution can also be used. Now this cell has a porous sponge. So when this cell is pressed against the concrete and against the uh, and when it is pressed, when it is pressed against the concrete, this one lead connects to the potential of this point and the second lead connects to the reinforcement. So this helps to give the between potential difference between the reinforcement rod and the surface of the concrete, which helps to give an idea of what is the concrete corrosion potential. Here the concrete functions as an electrolyte. The risk of corrosion of reinforcement in the intermediate region of the test location is related empirically to the measured potential difference. So that's what I said. So this is the typical solution. Sometimes you can cut open a portion of the concrete so that reinforcement is visible and connect this reinforcement rod to the voltmeter through one electrical wire lead and through the other electrical wire is connected to the half cell. This is copper sulfate half cell. This is the copper rod and this is the copper sulfate solution. Now how this is done? So this voltmeter sometimes is handheld. You can just connect the lead. One wire connects to the reinforcement and the other copper sulfate uh, solution half cell is pressed against the concrete. We choose a region of concrete. We mark points where we need to measure the potential, and we keep marking on the, let's say, over an area of uh, 1 square meter or 3 square meters or 5 square meters. We choose points and typically uh, keep measuring the potential values through the half cell use, and then this data can be transmitted to a computer, or there are automated softwares to do this. You can transmit it to the computer, and over the region area of investigation you plot the points and plot all the values, and after that a contour can be made. These are the equipotential lines. That means the half cell has given the same potential value. This way we can measure whether this region refers to a high risk. That means the potential difference is high and there are chances for corrosion, whereas these green regions may indicate that there is no chance for corrosion. This is similarly another plot of potential values. Now let us see the general interpretations of the half cell potential measurements. Less negative than minus 0.2 volts. That means if your voltage is greater than minus 0.2 volts, then there is no corrosion. This is 90% probability that there is no corrosion. If the values are between minus 0.35 and minus 0.2 volts, then corrosion activity is possible, but there is uncertainty. But if it is more negative than minus 0.35 volts, that is less than minus 0.35 volts, then there is 90% chance that corrosion is existing. If you get a positive value, there is insufficient moisture in the concrete and therefore it's an invalid reading. We cannot assure that there is no corrosion. Now, very important, this half cell potential method test does not indicate the rate of corrosion. It only gives an indication of the potential for corrosion at the time of measurement. Also, this test is difficult to apply for post-tension strands in pre-stressed structures. The test fails if there is discontinuity in the reinforcement, obviously, because one lead is connected to the reinforcement, and if the reinforcement is broken or there is discontinuity, then it so happens that the test will fail. So this is a simple and economical method for quick corrosion potential assessment. Next test is electrical resistivity measurement. This also gives an indication of corrosion potential. So while the half cell potential measurement is effective in locating regions of corrosion activity, it provides no indication of the rate of corrosion. Electrical resistivity measurements, on the other hand, gives further insight into corrosion. So both tests can be applied. Half cell potential method to identify the regions of potential corrosion, and electrical resistivity measurement to give further insight into corrosion. This is the principle on which this electrical measurement technique works. A low resistant path between anodic and cathodic sites would normally be associated with high rate of corrosion. Then a high resistant part. That means within the concrete, if the resistance between anodic and cathodic parts, cathodic points is resistance is high, then corrosion is low. If resistance is low, then corrosion is high. Simple. So electrical resistivity, so resistance we have to measure. So electrical resistivity measurements determine the current levels flowing between anodic and cathodic positions, or the concrete conductivity over the test area, and are usually used in conjunction with half cell potential technique. This is an electrolytic process as a consequence of ionic movement in the aqueous porous solution of the concrete matrix. So for electrical resistivity, we use the Werner 4 probe resistivity meter. The Werner 4 probe resistivity meter has these 4 probes. The inner probes are connected to the voltmeter and is at a distance A. The outer probes are also at a distance A from the inner probes. The outer probes are connected to an ammeter to measure the current flow, and there is a it is these are connected to an alternating current supplying source. So when an AC current source is supplied, so current flows. Now as the current is flowing, in between these two probes, the voltmeter measures the voltage. Now we know V by I is equal to R. So voltage by current gives us resistance. So that is the principle underlying this test. Werner 4 probe resistivity meter. So the equipment consists of 4 electrodes, 2 outer current probes and 2 inner voltage probes, which are placed in a straight line or on or just below the concrete surface at equal spacings. A low frequency alternating electrical current is passed between the 2 outer electrodes, while the voltage drop between the inner electrodes is measured. The apparent resistivity in ohm centimeter may be expressed as V by I gives R ohm, and 2 pi A. A is the distance between the electrodes, or the spacing between the electrodes. So this formula rho is equal to 2 pi A into V by I is called as apparent resistivity. It is measured in ohm centimeter. So these are another pictures of Werner 4 probe resistivity meter. So these are the current flow lines and these are the equipotential lines. This is the potential, voltmeter here, this is the ammeter here. Now in real life, the equipments can be like this. They are equipments with this Werner 4 probe, and they are connected to an external device of display, and they are Werner 4 probe meters, which are in which the display is inbuilt with the probe. So resistivity can be measured by any of these equipments. Now spacing of the probes and resistivity meter is important, because this particular test, resistivity test, is conducted for various materials, not necessarily civil engineering materials. However, now our focus is on concrete. So what is the right spacing required for concrete? That is the question. Now the spacing of the 4 probes determines the region of the concrete being measured. That means to how much depth is the current flow going. So it is generally accepted that for practical purposes, the depth of the concrete zone affecting the measurement will be equal to the electrode spacing. That means the electrode spacing is A. When we put the uh, 4 Werner 4 probe resistivity meter, it is measuring the resistivity up to a depth of A from the surface. That is the idea. If the spacing is too small, the presence or absence of individual aggregate particles usually having a very high resistivity will lead to a high degree of scatter in the measurement. So from point to point, when we change, we have to change the position of the resistivity meter on the concrete surface to take multiple measurements. Now, if the spacing between the probes is very small, in between the probes, many a times aggregate particles may be present just below the surface. Now these aggregates are highly resistant. Now in the next reading, the aggregate may not be present, a cement matrix may be present. Now there will be a great difference in the apparent resistivity value. So spacing should not be too small. And if there is large spacing, then there are other problems. Using a large spacing may lead to inaccuracies due to the current field being constricted by the edges of the structure being studied. In addition, increased error can also be caused by influence of embedded steel when larger spacings are employed. So there is a difficulty with large spacing. Therefore, an appropriate spacing is determined by standard agencies. Spacing of 50 mm is commonly adopted, giving a very small degree of scatter and allows concrete sections in excess of 200 mm thick to be measured with acceptable accuracy. What are the factors influencing electrical resistivity measurements? Moisture in the cement, salt content in the cement, ambient temperature, water cement ratio that has been used in the original concrete mix, and other mixed proportions, admixtures present. All the material that goes into the concrete will affect the resistivity measurements of the concrete. So general guidelines for interpretation of resistivity measurements for corrosion assessment. If resistivity, apparent resistivity in ohm centimeter is less than 5000, then because the resistivity is less, then the corrosion rate may be very high corrosion rate. If resistivity is between 5000 and 10,000 ohm centimeter, the corrosion rate is high. And if it is greater than 10,000 to, it lies between 10,000 and 20,000, the resistivity is low or moderate, and if it is greater than 20,000, the resistivity is negligible. So it is necessary to calibrate the technique either through exposing the steel to assess its condition or by correlating the resistivity values with data collected with other techniques such as half cell potential measurement. So this was about electrical resistivity. So corrosion potential, we have studied two tests, half cell potential test and electrical resistivity measurement using Werner 4 probe. There are other tests of electrical resistivity like surface potential measuring technique, polarization resistance technique, electrochemical noise analysis. These are beyond the scope of this syllabus. For those of you interested, this is the reference book in which these details are available. Testing for chemical properties, carbonation depth measurement. So now moving on to carbonation depth, we know what is carbonation. Carbonation in concrete means the carbon dioxide present in the air mixes with water and enters into the uh, pores of the concrete and starts a reaction, and it forms calcium carbonates, and the whole process of carbonation, it makes the top surface very hard and brittle, and it also depacificates the concrete. That means it reduces the pH of the concrete. Usually concrete has a pH value of about 13 or greater than 12. When the pH of the concrete is in that alkaline region of 12 and 13, the chances of corrosion to take place is very less. But as pH goes down to 11, 10 or 9, there's high potential for uh, corrosion of the steel, reinforced concrete steel, because the concrete matrix becomes an active electrolyte for corrosion activity. So, how to measure how much carbonation has taken place? So, carbonation penetrates below the exposed surface of the concrete extremely slowly. The time required for carbonation can be estimated knowing the concrete grade and using the following equation. T is the time for carbonation and D is the concrete cover and K is the permeability. Generally, it takes a long number of years for corrosion. How to measure? There are acid-base indicators to measure carbonation depth. How to do so? The easiest method is to a concrete core cut in the depth of the concrete structure. The core is extracted. On the core, concrete core, a phenolphthalein solution is sprayed. So what is that solution? 1% phenolphthalein solution is made by dissolving 1 gram of phenolphthalein in 90 cc of ethanol. The solution is then made up to 100 cc by adding distilled water. On freshly extracted cores, the, the sorry, on freshly extracted core, the phenolphthalein solution is sprayed, and the depth of the uncolored layer from the external surface is measured to the nearest mm at 4 or 8 positions, and then average is taken. So generally what happens is, when phenolphthalein solution is sprinkled over the concrete, for a carbonated layer there will be no coloration. The phenolphthalein solution will produce no color. However, if concrete is not carbonated, then when phenolphthalein solution is sprinkled onto the concrete will change to purple or pink color. That when it changes to purple or pink color, it means that carbonation has not taken place. Yeah. So these are the examples of samples. So here this is a concrete core and phenolphthalein solution has been sprinkled in this from this edge to somewhere in the middle, and now we can see that this portion is carbonated and this pink portion is not carbonated. So we can measure the depth of carbonation using a scale or any other distance measuring device, and we can see the carbonation. See, for example, here very clearly this is the depth of carbonation. Here carbonation is not taking place. In a spalled concrete, we can see that this already the reinforcement is corroded, and adjacent to the corroded reinforcement the concrete is not carbonated, but on the top layers the concrete has been carbonated. That is why it has led to rusting or corrosion of steel. Next, carbonation depth measurement can also be used by petrographic analysis. Petrographic analysis means studying the particles, powdered particles of rocks, minerals or concrete under polarizing microscope. This is a whole different technique. So the expert geologists uh, will be will specialize in petrographic analysis. So this is just a simple chip like this just an example of how petrographic analysis works. This is just a clay pot. A piece of clay pot is taken. It is nicely powdered into a very thin layer, and then on a very thin glass, it is taken and put under the microscope. Now, from the microscope, this view can be seen. and it gives various details of the crystal structure and the crystal structure and the pattern of the uh, intermolecular arrangements of the material. So now, how to how does it how is it used in concrete? So for carbonation taking place, we can study through petrographic analysis, and there will be change in the structure. We will find calcium carbonate particles within the microscope with a pattern. So within the pores, calcium carbonate uh, will be formed. Now, petrographic analysis not just helps in carbonation depth measurement, but it is also helpful to study the concrete as to how much freeze thaw resistance is there in the concrete, or how has the concrete undergone sulfate attack. Is there an alkali aggregate reaction, or is there an alkali aggregate durability? All this we can study through petrographic analysis. It is microscope analysis of concrete. So we have studied here for carbonation, but also it can be done for these other tests. So alkali aggregate reaction and sulfate attack by petrographic analysis. So we can say in 10x magnification under the microscope we can study the concrete. So these are the symptoms of alkali aggregate reaction. So macro cracks penetrating at different depths in concrete member. Macro cracks can be due to several mechanisms other than ASR, but ASR is a possibility. There will be macro cracks. Under petroscopic analysis, we have to see this is not a petroscopic analysis, but uh, this is just a picture. Okay. This is ASR clearly because of the cracking pattern. Symptom 2, fine to medium sized cracks will stay damp while rewetting. So this is under the petroscopic microscope. In the rewetting, you see fine to micro cracks remain wet. Gel staining surrounding the surface cracks. Okay, this you can apply a gel if not moisture, and that stains remain. Dark reaction rims at the periphery of reacted aggregate particles. Dark rims may appear at periphery of weathered gravel particles and are consequently not fully indicative of ASR as in the case of gravel aggregates. Other than gravel aggregates, if we study this, we know ASR reaction, what happens? The aggregate reacts with the alkali present, and a layer of compound is formed around the aggregate which grows in volume which grows in volume. So and so over a period of time around the aggregate this dark reaction rims are seen, which is indicative of alkali aggregate reaction. So by petrographic analysis we can identify this one. Next, another symptom is within cracks within reactive aggregates which extend sometimes in the cement paste with or without reaction product gels. So cracks within the reactive aggregates. For alkali aggregate reaction, there may be cracks within the aggregates also. And alkali silica gel in void of cement paste. This kind of a thing is seen under microscope. Deposits of reaction products on cracked surface of course. And see the deposits of reaction surface, reaction products on the cracked surface. So these are the ways of which by petrographic analysis alkali aggregate reaction, and similarly sulfate. In sulfate, we know that ettringite is formed. So ettringite is easily detectable by very high resolution microscopes. Ettringite is a needle-like structure, it is determinable. So similarly, by petrographic analysis, we can determine whether sulfate attack has taken place in concrete. For alkali aggregate reaction, another method used is uranyl acetate fluorescence method. Now, use of uranyl acetate fluorescence method is like this. It confirms ASR, alkali silica reaction in particular. Now, alkali silica reactivity is uniquely characterized by production of gel-like reaction products. It is composed of essentially of silica, the alkalis, potassium, sodium and potassium, and calcium in the presence of water. Uptake of water by the gel is the primary factor determining the volume changes associated with alkali silica reaction. The gel may be present in large or minute amounts in aggregates, aggregate sockets, air voids, fractures, and on the surface of externally formed concrete. By application of uranyl acetate solution to the surface containing the gel, the uranyl ions substitute for the alkali in the gel, thereby imparting a characteristic yellowish green glow when viewed in the dark using short wavelength ultraviolet light. So what happens is, when you apply uranyl acetate solution onto the core of the concrete, you extract the core and then apply the uranyl acetate solution. Then that solution, the uranyl ion replaces alkali ions, and the characteristic is under ultraviolet light it produces a green color efflorescence. So ASR gel fluoresces more brightly, much more brightly than the cement paste due to greater concentration of alkali, and therefore the uranyl ion on the gel. So there's the picture. At the microscopic level, under petrographic microscope, when uranyl acetate solution is applied, we can see this greenish glow color, which is indicator of alkali aggregate reaction, particularly alkali silica reaction. Now this is again petrographic microscope. You can see cracks on the aggregate, and you can also see this border on the aggregates, indicating the alkali aggregate reaction. So there is petrographic analysis. Next, we will go for the chemical testing uh, for chloride content. Chloride content, there are various methods. There is many tests. There are direct chloride analyzers in the laboratory. You just take electrical drill bit and extract some portion of the concrete sample and put and just check how much chloride is content in the concrete. Chloride content, we know that it causes major damage when chloride penetrates deep up to the reinforcement. It becomes a catalyst for corrosion, and corrosion is like cancer for the concrete. It eats away the concrete strength. So chloride content measurement is important to uh, ensure that corrosion is not taking place. Now, how to do it? So it is done by taking a sample of concrete from the structure, either by drawing pulverized concrete using a rotatory percussion hammer, preferably electric, or by taking core and then pulverizing the concrete in the laboratory. At each level of sampling, the pulverized material is collected and stored in a clean container. The whole is vacuum cleaned and the next sample is drawn at the next desired depth. Where deep holes are to be drilled, care must be taken to prevent contamination of the sample from abrasion of rotary drill bit against the side of the hole. Using a drill bit with a step down bit diameter will reduce the chance of contamination. Powdered samples are analyzed using a wet chemical method. Now, how to do chloride content measurement? Chloride content can be determined from broken samples or core samples of concrete. Primarily, the level of chloride near the steel concrete interface is of prime importance. Chloride present in the concrete are fixed water insoluble as well as free water soluble. Though it is the water soluble chloride ions which are important from corrosion risk point of view, yet total acid soluble fixed as well as free chloride contents are determined and compared with limiting values specified for concrete to assess the risk of corrosion in the concrete. So free chloride, water soluble chlorides are critical. However, the test that we will use, it will act on both fixed as well as free chloride ions present in the concrete. Now, this test for chloride content is based on IS 14959 Part 3 2001. The total acid soluble chloride are determined in accordance with this IS code, whereas for assessment of water soluble chlorides, the test consists of obtaining the water extracts and conducting standard titration experiments for determining the water soluble chloride content, and is expressed by water soluble chloride expressed by weight of the concrete or cement. So this is the method. By using this, it's a standard titration method used in a chemical laboratory. The method gives average chloride content in cover region. Further, a chloride profile across the cover thickness will be a more useful measurement, as this can help to make a rough estimate on chloride content diffusion rate. So one recent development for field testing of chloride content includes the use of chloride ion sensitive electrode. This is called as Rapid Chloride Test Kit 4. So what is this Rapid Chloride Test Kit? The test kit consists of obtaining powdered samples by drilling and collecting them from various depths, mixing the sample of about 15 grams weight with a special chloride extraction liquid and measuring the electrical potential of the liquid by chloride ion sensitive electrodes. This way we can identify how much chloride is there. With the help of a calibration graph relating electrical potential and chloride content, the chloride content of the samples can be directly determined. This is rapid chloride test kit. Now there are some things. If you check the pH value of concrete and the chloride content, okay, then we can conclude about the corrosion in the concrete. If high pH values greater than 11.5 and very low chloride content, then there is no corrosion. High pH values and high chloride content greater than threshold, that is 0.15% by weight of cement, then the concrete, although pH value is pH value is high, but because chloride content is high, it is corrosion prone. If carbonation takes place, immediately corrosion can happen. If low pH values and high chloride content, pH is low and chloride content is high, naturally, then there is increased risk of corrosion. So with this, we come to a conclusion of testing for chemical properties. Of course, there are many more tests. There's an introductory course for NDT. In fact, this is just one small chapter in NDT. For if there's a higher degree courses on NDT, then much more details would be discussed in such a course. For this lecture, the references that have been taken are standard from CPWD handbook, and some of the pictures are taken from Peter Emmons' book on concrete repair, and some content is taken from Guidebook on Non-Destructive Testing of Concrete Structures. There are some interesting web resources. This NPTEL lecture, gives a detailed description about chloride penetration in concrete. This is concrete technology. For those of you who are interested to understand about the chloride penetration in concrete and its effects, then this lecture will be useful. This lecture is not so useful from NDT point of view, but it is more going into the detail of chloride penetration. There are some very beautiful videos on half cell potential test for corrosion potential in concrete. You can watch this video. It gives a live demonstration of how half cell potential measurement is used. And then there is a lecture on electrical resistivity test by a faculty based on ASTO, American Society test T358. And then there are very good small snippets videos of carbonation test in concrete using phenolphthalein solution. You can watch this. And what is petrographic analysis? A brief overview of petrographic analysis in small snippets will be useful to give you an idea of what petrographic analysis is. And this is the test of rapid chloride penetration. You can study this, you can watch this video. So with this, we come to an end of testing for chemical properties. Thank you.